So, a big theme to the chapter is what we've covered. The basic principles of promotion are the same, but now we come to how it's just harder because we're less familiar with the new communication contexts, tools, and audiences. So, the larger external environment has a very strong impact. There's, of course, those real physical limitations, what media or tools are actually available, at what cost, and especially the market data and what's available to help us actually decide. And there are many more rules we need to learn, both norms and laws alike. You have a nice section in your book about how comparative advertising is restricted in a lot of places. There are more kinds of content restrictions about when or what you can post on TV. This example is how Quebec, Canada requires French. And to operate, you in fact need to have a French name because your charter must be in French. Finally, related to that is that there are still norms and practices to consider. Where are your customers? How do they get their purchase information? Who do they trust for information? So what? Well, you will likely need to devote promotions to see that perceived value is actually recognized or realized by customers. So we're often selling not only just the product itself, but the very idea and surrounding practices. More so for example, many health organizations had to promote masks to culture that don't normally wear masks when sick or during flu season. And for most of you, your promotional needs for your class project strongly differ from these toothpaste simulation because you're marketing a pretty new product category or segment in that category for your plan, and it's very different than All Smile, where plenty of people use toothpaste. They're just trying to encourage your particular brand and product qualities now. So, big component is customization and standardization. Uh, so, for your simulation, you recognize, of course, things like the correct language or audience imagery. However, it's also an issue where you need to make sure you're sending a message that'll decode, interpret the way you want in other ways. For example, if you try to emphasize a movie over the moon about the Mid Autumn Festival with family and grief as big themes, you might say, it's like the movie Coco, but Chinese mythology and in space. The necklace person then goes, Coco, like Halloween. This probably made things interesting. We are trying to figure out how to promote this film to all those different audiences with different experiences. So again, it's not just the correct language or, a particular symbol, but the whole package. And things and that brings us to another major communications issue. One market often can overhear what's communicated to the other market. So those messages bleed out. So integrated marketing communications again must be at your fore. So whether you have an umbrella brand of sorts or maybe a set of separate brands, either way, you'll need to balance different parts and still retain its own coherent message. So other big trends, similar to domestic, tech and data continues to change things. And just like here, big desire for value, but thanks to tech, we're better able to personalize and do a lot of other techniques than we used to. And of course, segmentation, just remember, don't be limited by national boundaries, cluster based on what makes sense. So both within and beyond. So, for example, with Spotify, they don't limit themselves to previous segments like a particular nation or particular genre of followers. They do all sorts. And a big emphasis I want to remind you is that there is information out there and forums for information. So, there are lots of opportunities where groups are trying to make sure people get the info that they need or can put out the info they need. So lots of government groups, agencies, trade show operators, and others who want to help you get connected with each other. So this video is the Intra-African Trade Fair that happened in 2018 and export.gov, for example. This is an example for Argentina. There's lots of information out there. And so just to really remember what we're dealing with here. Here is how Dunkin' Donuts did in India. and how important it is to communicate, but also not only to communicate, but make sure you know your situation and can map them onto your objectives. Now you try. The rest of these are just a couple of activities just to kind of get your hands into things. So, key activity you'll want to do with your team or anytime is to sketch out your promotional strategies. So, what are you going to do? How, once you have these plans, you don't want to say, oh, here's a plan, here's a plan, here's a plan. You want to be able to see how they connect with each other. Are you going to do it in a timeline? Do you want to do it by touch point? Do you want to cluster them by product category or messaging? All that good stuff. This is important things to kind of consider so that you're not just doing plans willy-nilly. You need a plan to sort through them. And so here's a nice quick thing I'm reminding you of how you make a promotion. Just, state your objective, what tools do you need, what's your message, and especially at the end, what are you going to do to make sure it's actually working? What are those metrics? So that end, something to consider is it's good to pull out those creative briefs. That creative brief is about communicating the major facts of promotional strategy. So things like objectives, goals, tools, needed resources, and timing. So this one's by Reebok. And if you look below, there's more resources for other versions and variants you might like. And here are two examples to inspire you from a past student. She had an all-natural skincare product and created these as part of her marketing plans, where it's just largely her for now. It's also, at this point, more domestic. But you'll notice that the way and structure she uses to organize this is good for any type and helps you keep organized your international marketing plans. So that's a table for you if you like. So you can go ahead and just jump in and get started. And so that's wraps up our quick highlights to our promotional strategies section. So big ideas again, remember those classic promotional goals matter all the more. And of course, it's not just different languages, it's the whole context that we have to be worried about. And not only that whole context, but there's different managerial issues we have where we need to make sure our plans are actually working together. We have all the more plans, all those more objectives, and we want to make sure they work together. And so that's why we have this. And so if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And hope you're having a good day or evening so far. Take care. And whatever ideas you have, run with them, see where they take you. Who knows where they might take you? There's all that data and information out there. Just a matter of bringing it forward, thinking it through, and telling us all about it. Take care.